Now that we have looked at how to enter and edit charges, we're going to look at the batching and submission process. To go to the Submit Claim screen, navigate to the charges and click on Submit Claims. This opens up into the new Workbench screen. Once a new Workbench screen opens, you would see there are 3 tabs. The first will show Claims Dashboard, the second is a Claims History tab, and the third is Print or Rebuild. On the Claims Dashboard, of course, it opens up into the dashboard, and you would see a pie chart here that shows you the various claims statuses and how many claims that you have in each of the status. If you hover over each of those statuses, it also gives you the count, as you can see here. You click on any of the status and it'll take you to the screen and show you the claims that are in that status. So I clicked on that accepted area, and you can see it brought me to the accepted under the electronic claims, and it shows me the accepted list. So I'm going to click on the dashboard again to go back to the dashboard. One thing to note here is that when you open up this screen, it is always going to default to the past 30 days. So you can see what you're seeing here is the past 30 days data. But you can extend the date or change the date by either using the calendar, clicking on the calendar, or typing in the date. Next, we're going to click on Ready to Submit. The Ready to Submit shows you the list of claims that you have either put to a bill to PR, which is bill to PR, bill to SE, or bill to TR, which means that the first time you have put it to either a primary, secondary, or tertiary insurance status, or it'll also show you claims that you have put to a rebuild status, which is like a rebuild to PR, rebuild to SE, or a rebuild to TR status. So these are all the claims that are ready for batching. Now on this claims list, if you click on the patient's name, that'll take you to the patient screen. So if you want to review or change any patient information before batching, you can click here and review or change the patient information. So close out of the patient screen and back to the claims workbench. Also, you have the date of service here. If you click on the date of service, it's going to open up the edit charges screen for you. If you need to review the charge information or modify the charge information before you batch it, you can click on that date of service to open up the claims, which is the edit charges or the charge master screen. Now let's say if for some reason you don't want this particular claim to be transmitted or batched, you want to change the status, or you can change the status here to hold. So if you want to temporarily hold this claim, just put it to a hold status, and you would be able to see this claim in the hold list. There is also a bucket on the claims workbench where you can see the claims that you have kept on hold. So once you're ready to batch your claims, you have at the bottom generate batches. We're going to hit the generate batches. You can see all these 3 claims are set to EDI, so they are going to batch as electronic. If any were set to paper, you would see the billing method here as paper, and once they get batched, they will actually fall into the paper section. So let's hit the generate batches. So I hit the generate batches. It shows a message comes up on the screen. It went away quickly, but if you would have seen, it shows that so many batches were created successfully. Now, once you have completed that step, you can go to the unsubmitted batches under the batch. And this will show you all the claims that are ready to batch or ready to transmit. So you can see that I've got 3 files here which are ready to transmit. There is on the right hand side of it, there's a send option which you can click on to send to the clearinghouse right from the system. Now it'll also show you what is the file type, whether it's a professional type of file or whether it's an institutional type of file. Now let's say if you do both billings in professional and institutional from the system, it'll create separate files for professional and institutional. You may also see separate files being created for legal entities. So if there are multiple legal entities that you bill from the system, which is multiple billing entities, the system will create separate file for each legal entity. I have 3 files here which I have not sent out. These were created on 3 different days, so that's why you see these 3 files with different uh, 3 different files created. Generally, you would generally may see only one file, or if you have multiple entities, you might just see 2 files in there. Option to the right next to the send is the download. This is to be used only if you want the file to be downloaded, which is downloaded and saved to your computer. You would only use this option typically if you use a clearinghouse which is not integrated with Practice Suite, and you want to download the file and upload it manually into the clearinghouse portal. For any Practice Suite integrated clearinghouses, you would just hit the send, and that file will be transmitted directly from here to the clearinghouse. We'll look at that step in just a moment. To the right, there's also a paper icon which you can click on to see the claims that are in that file. Now, to transmit a claim, you would hit the send option. When you click on the send, it will bring up a pop-up which will show claim successfully uploaded. Now, you would also notice here, once you hit the send, it grays out the send option. If a successful handshake was made, it would gray out the send option. If a successful handshake is not made, you would see that initially it will gray out, like as you see here, but then when you come back to the screen, you will see that it's got the send again lit up. So if you don't get a successful message, which is you don't get that claim successfully uploaded message, then it would just bring that back, light it up back again for you to transmit it, to send again. So this was the step of sending the claim out to the clearinghouse. Now, once you have transmitted the claims, the following day you will start seeing responses for these claims that you transmitted coming into the electronic claims accepted and rejected buckets. So if you go to the accepted, you would see all the claims that were accepted. Any claims that were rejected by the clearinghouse, you will see them in the clearinghouse rejects. Any claims that went through the clearinghouse, passed the clearinghouse edits, and went to the payer but was rejected by the payer, you will see them in the payer rejects. In any of these 3 buckets or any of these 3 lists, you would have the option to either click on the claim number to open that claim, and it'll open up the edit charges screen. So if you want to review or modify any information, you can do that. Or you will have the option to click on the patient to open up the patient screen. So that loads the patient screen with that patient's information. Right, back on the claims workbench. So you can click either of these options to if you need to make any corrections. Now, on the left hand side of the reject, and I'll first go to the clearinghouse rejects here, you also would see the message that the rejection or the rejection message. You expand this and you can see the clearinghouse response, why it got rejected. If I go to the payer rejects tab, I also have that plus symbol next to it. So you would also see this plus to see why this claim rejected. You can see this claim rejected for subscriber and subscriber ID not found, which may typically mean that the subscriber ID that was entered was wrong, or you may have transmitted it to the wrong payer, which means that either the insurance has to be changed, or which is on the patient's insurance, you may have picked the wrong insurance, or it could also mean that it was the correct insurance but the payer ID was wrong. So which means that you would have to fix that payer ID from the insurance setup screen. So this is just an example. You would typically see rejection messages like this, and based on the rejection messages, you can take appropriate action for fixing those rejection. Now there's a website of Practice Suite, which is academy.practicesuite.com, and I'm just going to open that up here. So there's an academy.practicesuite.com, and on this website you can just type in clearinghouse or common clearinghouse rejections, and you would see that it brings up the result, and if you click on it, it kind of gives you all the rejection messages and what this means and what action typically you would need to take to fix that. So you can always bookmark this page, which is academy.practicesuite.com, and you can you can look for rejections. You can do a Control F on the screen, which is Control F for find, and you can do a browser find to find any rejection messages that you see on this, and you can actually see some helpful hints on the rejection messages. You may typically not see what needs to be fixed in the system, but you will see some helpful information. If it's a rejection message that you do not understand, there might be some helpful hints in there, which can help you guide on what information may need to be fixed for that rejection. Now, also on the screen, you can rebuild a claim. So let's say if you made the fix, you changed the information, updated it, you want to rebuild this claim. You can check the box here. There's a rebuild option. You can hit the rebuild at the bottom, and that claim will be rebuilt. So once you rebuild, they will again show up on the ready to submit list, and then you just follow the batching process again. Now there's also another option here, which is mark as worked. Sometimes the claim rejection may not be needed to be worked at all. If you want to mark this as worked, typically you might need to do it for claims that are rejected as duplicate. A duplicate claim rejection means that the original claim was already received by the clearinghouse, and so they are rejecting the duplicate claim, maybe which was submitted. So in that duplicate claim can be cleared off the list because the original claim has already gone through. In that instance, you can check the box and mark it as worked. Also note, whenever you do a rebuild of a claim from here, the system will also mark that claim as worked. So either you can force mark as worked if you've already worked on the claim and fixed it, you can mark it as worked. Or if you do a rebuild of the claim, the system will automatically mark that claim as worked. Now, if you want to look up the claims that are marked as worked, which you have already worked, you can check the box include worked. So whichever claims that you have marked as worked, you can see them when you check this box include worked and hit the search for the date range. Also, this columns that you see here on this claims workbench are customizable. Let's say if you don't want a particular column or want to add a new column here to this list, you can always click on this drop down and next to the column header, and you can select which are columns that you need added or removed from the list. Next, we're going to look at the pending responses. So what does pending responses mean? Claims that you have transmitted and a response has not been received either by the payer, from the payer, or from the clearinghouse, you would see them in the pending responses. So you have transmitted the claim, but the system has not received an acknowledgement either from the clearinghouse, either a rejection or an acceptance acknowledgement from the clearinghouse. It would move it to the pending responses bucket. So pending responses, there is typically not much action that you can do for them. You can maybe wait a little bit longer to see if you start getting the pending responses, but if that is pending responses start moving to the accepted. But if you still see those pending responses for a while, you want to maybe raise that with the support team so they can investigate with the clearinghouse, have the clearinghouse research and get an update for you. The next is the downloaded list, which is any downloads, any files that were downloaded into your computer. You would see them on the claims that were downloaded on this list. Again, from here, if you want to rebuild the claims, you have the option to check and rebuild the claims. Next is a paper claim section. Any claims that you batched as paper would show up in the paper claim section. Now, remember I told you that depending on how they are set up on the insurance screen, the billing method, the primary and secondary billing method, whether they are set up as paper or electronic, they will batch to paper or electronic buckets. So if they're set as paper, the insurance, they'll batch to the paper, and any newly batched paper claims which have not been printed will show up in the new paper claims list. Now, once they are on the paper claims list, you can check the box to print them. You have the check here. You can check them all or check the ones that you want to print. And you would see on the right hand side bottom there is a print icon. You will get three options. You would typically use the bottom two, which is for the CMS 1500 or CMS 1500 data option. The difference between the two is that the CMS 1500 option is what you would use if you want that to be printed with the red lines. So you can see that it prints with the red lines. This is typically used when you want to see what information has populated in each of the boxes, or you want to print and fax it to an insurance company. Just you can print this on a white sheet of paper and fax it to the insurance company. Now, if you need to mail it, you always need to use the CMS, the one above, which is a CMS 1500 data option. If you click on that, it prints it without the lines, and it'll print it just with a white on background with no lines. So you can input the red line form onto your printer, which is a CMS form, into the printer and print it. Now when you're printing the form, make sure that the alignment, or the margins, is set to, or the fit option on the margins are always unchecked. So you would see when you print, there is either a print dialog box that'll come up, or if you do a print from the browser, you would see that there's a option on the browser where you would have a fit. By default, the fit may be checked. Make sure that the fit is unchecked for it to be aligned correctly. If the fit is checked, then it may not align correctly to the printer. Also, on the top right hand side, there is a settings here. So if you click on the settings, you can actually change the printer alignment. You can click on the drop down and select the printer. You can also add custom printer, or if you have that unselected, which is left on blank, which is on the word select, you can set a left offset and top offset. Left offset will move the alignment to the right. After you've printed, you can look at it, and it'll move to the right. You just put a positive number here. If it's a top offset, you put a positive number, it'll bring it down. So it'll bring the text down. If you put a negative number, it'll move to the left, whereas if you put a negative number in the top offset, it'll move up. You can also change the font size from the settings if you need to. Typically, you wouldn't have to make these changes, so as I suggested, just make sure that you just set the fit as unchecked, and the alignment should work. But if you want to make any small changes to alignments, you can always click on this gear option, bring up this page, and you can change the left offset and top offset and make those alignment changes. Now, once you print the claim from here, you will no longer see it on your list. So if I refresh this list, you would see that this Jim Smith claim is no longer going to be there on the list. So once you print them, they'll go away from this list, because this is the new paper claims, and only the ones that you have not printed are the ones that you would be seeing here. Now, any claims that you have printed, you would be seeing them on the printed bucket. So any claims that you have printed in the past, so you can see that this is one claim that I printed now, or for this date range, and you can see that claims shows up in the printed list. Any claims that are put on hold, either from the edit charges screen or from the X Superbill screen, or which have been put to hold when you were here and you went to the charge master and saved them on hold, you would see them all on the hold list. From here, if you want to move them back to an active status, you can click on the date of service, move them back to an active status, or if you want to review the patient info, you can click on the patient's name and review the patient information, or make changes to the patient info if needed. The next here is the clearinghouse. So typically, based on what your clearinghouse is, whether it is Cognizant, which is for TriZetto, or whether it's Relay Health for Change Health, you're going to have the option right here to click on Launch to bring up the clearinghouse portal. So I'm going to click on the Launch. It's going to bring up the clearinghouse portal. It's going to auto sign you into the clearinghouse. So once it auto signs you into the clearinghouse, you have these different tabs here. You have Reports tab, where you can run reports to view your rejections or accepted claims. You also have a Manage Claims tab to look at your claims history. You can look at the rejected claims. You can run a claim status inquiry. Manage payments, you can look at electronic remit payments from here. You also have the Resources tab, where you can also go and look at payer lists. If you want to look at payer lists, there's also online training videos that are, or training content that is available. Now, anytime you want to look at a payer list, which is you want to look up a payer ID, you can always go to the payer list, and here you can click on the professional payers. If that's what you want to search, you can search with the name, or if it's a state-specific payer like government or Blue Cross, you can always select the state as well for searching the payer. The other thing that you can also see here, a very important piece of information, is if you go to the right hand side on the My Account, you will see there is, and I'm going to click on the My Account, and it's going to bring up this page where you're going to see there is a View Provider Details and Enrollment Status link. If you click on the View Provider Details and Enrollment Status link, you can actually see all the NPIs that are registered with the clearinghouse, and also you can see their enrollment status, whether the payer has been enrolled or whether the enrollment is in process. So this is the portal for the clearinghouse, TriZetto. You can actually access the TriZetto portal by clicking on that Cognizant link on the Claims Workbench page. The next, after the claims dashboard, we have a claims history. This is where you can look at the previous submitted claims, or batch claims list will come up here. You also have some filters that you can run the search with, some basic filters, but if you want to look at the list or filter the list by more filters, you have more filters. So you can use the more filters to bring up the list. You can also have the export to Excel and PDF options if you want to export based on the results here, or based on the parameters that you have selected. You can export this to a PDF option or an Excel option. The third tab is the print or rebill option. This is where you can do a mass rebill or find claims for reprinting. So you can select how the claims were batched, whether they were batched electronic or paper. You can select that and select the claim status as submitted if they were previously submitted. And you can use all these different filters that you have here. The claim date is mandatory. Either the claim date or the patient's name has to be mandatorily filled in. So I'm just going to do the claim date here, and we can hit search, and it shows all the claims that were batched within that date range. And you can do a select all, or select the ones that you want to rebill. That is, you can hit the rebill, or if you want to reprint, you can click on the print out icon and select the printer option. So there are various filters here that you could use. Maybe you want to rebuild the claims for a patient. You can always select the patient's name, or maybe you want to rebuild the claims for an insurance company. You can select the insurance/payer ID. You can type in the insurance name or the payer ID, or you want to look at the claims for a particular provider, or maybe an amount or procedure code. So you've got all these filters that you can use for finding the claims on the list. Once you have them on the list, you can select them all and hit rebill, which would rebill all the claims. You also have the option, if it's for printing, you also have the option to show only the latest claims. So which means that you may have batched the claims twice within the date range, but you just want one, or the latest claim that was batched on the list, to be printed. So you can check this box, show only latest claim, for that purpose. So you don't have to print duplicate claims off the list. Now, the default here on the screen is professional. If you also do institutional billing, you want to put the dot on the institutional while running the search. So that was all about the Claims Workbench screen.